Hello, welcome everyone. So this is the part 5 where we'll talk about arrays. We couldn't complete it in the former part, so we'll also discuss Foreach loops and databases include and require functions. The include will have include ones and the normal include. Then we have require ones and the normal require. So let's see how to briefly talk about all this. All right, so let's get started. So this is where we left off from our previous class. So arrays dot php. What is an array? So as we discussed earlier on, an array is a container that can store a set of items, not just one. It can store more than one items, be it uh, integers, be it strings, can hold that data, and then you are able to manipulate that data or those data. So the thing with arrays is that every item in an array has its position, and every item in an array has an index. And most of the time we talk about index. For example, this is an array. We have let's just talk about, we have Nigeria, we have Ghana, in no particular order please. We have Senegal, we have Cameroon. Okay, so these four good countries. So this position 1, we have Nigeria on position 1, we have Ghana on position 2, we have Senegal on position 3, we have Cameroon on position 4. So how can you count the number of items in this array? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So position 3 is Senegal, position 1 is Nigeria, position 4 is Cameroon, position 2 is Ghana, right? But when it comes to indexes, index starts with 0. Okay, so it's just like this. Okay, so the first position is actually index 0. The second position is index 1, the third position is index 2, and so on and so forth, right? So Nigeria is index 0, Senegal is position 3, but index 2. Mark, you just be very careful, and it's actually index you use most of the time. So let's get started. So instead of erasing that, let me just form an array with that. So I talked about creating an array. There are two ways of doing that. I will show you how to do that. So let me just make this an array at once. So you can have your array name like countries. It's assigned the value of, and then you have that square bracket which closes here. Okay, so I know you guys are experts, so I can do it anyhow, knowing too well that you've understood what I'm doing. Okay, so we have our countries there, and we have 4 of them. So this is how you declare an array. Another way of declaring it would have been by having these countries and then saying array. Okay, and then using these brackets. Okay, just a similar thing. All right. So but we don't want to use that. I like to use the square brackets because it's applicable in almost all the programming languages. So we have countries Nigeria, Ghana. Okay, so now what if we wanted to just echo Senegal? So what we do is index 0, index 1, index 2. So Senegal is 2, so you put in brackets 2, right? And then you terminate this, and then what you need to do is you get this, you call this, and put it here. Okay, so Senegal is 2, and then you get Senegal. So if we echo that out, then we should be able to see what we want. Oh, let me make that is too big. So we have arrays, of course. It prints Senegal for us. Okay, and then you can play with arrays just like variables, where you are able to add items. My nice African country is Senegal. Then you can add full stop, others. Okay, maybe just to show that you can write on the left and on the right, and it still works. And no one would know that Senegal was an array. Okay, so that's how you implement you working with arrays. So if we change this to one, one, then you get the nice country is now Ghana. Okay, if you change that to 0, Nigeria is a nice country, so it works. Okay, and of course you change it to without being biased. 1 2 3, yeah, 3, so it is what it is. All right, so you have it, Cameroon and others. Okay, so that's how you implement indexing. Okay, it's spelled index, index, it's in index. Okay, so indexing starts from zero in an array. Okay, so note this as we proceed. All right, so this is how you pretty much work with arrays, and it's simple. Let me try the other one that I said, array. All right, so we have that, then we have this. So let's see, hope we don't run into errors. So it's exactly the same thing. Okay, so you have definition of array. So if you remove this definition because of these brackets, that is an error. So if you are using brackets, okay, if you are using these brackets, then you have to put an array name in front of it. Otherwise, you use square brackets without this. If you also add an array in front of square brackets, then you are bound to have an error. Okay, so just know what to use. If it's square bracket, no array in front, and then you leave it that way. So everything works now. All right, so getting on from there, I want to we want to see how to print out. Most of the times you don't just want to call one you don't just want to call one country like this. Okay, you want to a situation where you print them out, all of them like this. Okay, and you play with them. All right, so let's see how to do that. So to do that, we introduce ourselves to what we call for each. For each is just like English language. Okay, for each. All right, just like we had what did we have that time when I was talking about something? Okay, is set, when I was talking about is set. Okay, but because it's a function name, you put it together. Because it's a function name, you put them together. Okay, so for each is a loop, just like while and for that we just discussed. If you've not watched our previous tutorial, I think tutorial 4, make sure you watch it on PHP, and it's really lovely, and yeah, you learn a lot. So for each loop is just like that. Okay, so you print something. Okay, so over here the condition would be for each countries. Okay, as is a keyword, and then you give a variable, your variable name, it can be anything. Okay, your variable name, you declare a variable here to hold the countries array. Okay, so this is a variable you can use here. You will not be able to use countries directly here, so you declare this variable to hold these countries arrays. Okay, so that being said, this is what you call, you just echo, and that should be okay. So you have Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Cameroon. Okay, so if we break this, you have that. So as easy as ABC. Okay, countries, you make sure once you type for each and you open your brackets, you take the array's name and place it here, and then as. Okay, as is kind of saying, let me try to explain that. Okay, you are in an occasion and maybe they are saying Mr. John Doe as chairman. Okay, and then maybe they say Mrs. Elizabeth Dance as MC. Okay, so I mean you get these names, and maybe in another calling they'll just say, okay, so the chairman opening remark, or the chairman wants to say something, so you don't have to use this John Doe again. Or, oh, the MC is out. Okay, so here is the MC. The MC says everybody should stand up, so you won't have to like necessarily say, oh, Mrs. Elizabeth said everybody should stand up. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that this as that you've given to this particular naming is what you will use here, because you have now adopted that and are going to use it here. If peradventure you come and use countries here, expect an error. Yeah, so you actually give it a new name and then call it. So, but the way the design that I see developers fond of doing is they write the singular form of this array, okay, so that it's easy to match and it's easy to work with. So countries and countries, so that should work. So for each countries as country, okay, so that works very well. Okay, so what else are we to talk about? So that's fast, and we'll talk about um database. So I'll quickly talk about databases and then talk about include and require, and we'll do a couple of stuff. Okay, all right, let's see how we start working with databases. Okay, so a database, what is a database? Database spelled, so one of my students I thought, yeah, last week said database is a container. Everything seems to be a container in my class. A variable, a container. We have what else? Arrays, a container. So whatever question I ask now, maybe you just what is a database, a container, and somewhere I'll ask what is PHP, a container. So, but it was not really, it wasn't wrong. So to speak, a database can be defined as a logical container, okay, that stores data. Okay, so you can call it like that, or a drum where you can keep data and then you can always retrieve that data, okay, and work on it. Okay, it interacts with the back end, okay, mostly, and then fetches the data to the front end, and users are able to see with their user-facing application. So a database, just simply put, a logical container that stores data, information, large amounts of information for it to be manipulated. Imagine a school, okay, with several students, and then they are able to come up with a particular student that is offering a particular course, okay, and the grades of the students. So those information are being stored in the database, and they can be updated, they can be deleted, new ones can be created. So that's a functionality for a database. So most of the applications we build have databases somewhere. Databases can be somewhere in the cloud, it can be on your local host, it can be somewhere on your web server where you are hosting. Maybe I'm not trying to advertise, maybe Namecheap, SmartWeb, maybe oneandone.co.uk. Um, yeah, Bluehost. I think I've used a couple as well. All right, so um, so that's what a database is. So we have database management systems to make it easier for us to interact with databases. Okay, so a couple of them, very popular ones, like we have MySQL. Okay, MySQL. Okay, we also have Postgres SQL. PostgreSQL, or just call it Postgres. We also have MongoDB. Okay, they are categorized into different ones, but I'm just mixing them up. We have some old one, Access. We have SQL Server, and the rest and the rest. Okay, so now before we jump into this, I would like to say that databases, there is something we call SQL, which means structured query language. Okay, so it's used to be able to write, okay, structured query language. Okay, you use it to write, I mean, to the database. Okay, so you don't use HTML to write to the database, you don't use CSS, you don't use PHP, you actually use SQL. Okay, so this SQL, I mean, offered here, 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 no, not here, here and here. All right, so that takes us to what I would briefly discuss, like the categories of database, large broad categories of database. So we have RDBMS, okay, relational database management system. So these ones fall into that category. Okay, all right, then we also have document NoSQL databases, NoSQL, okay, databases or document databases. Okay, so that one we have MongoDB. Oh, I failed to mention Oracle is here. Okay, you'll be hearing of Oracle administration. Okay, so this one is here. So RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. Okay, talked about database management to simplify the task of having to generate or write this, or having to interact directly with databases. So this beautiful RDBMS offer that leverage for us to interact with our databases. Okay, so in databases we have tables. Okay, and tables have column. Please, for now, I will ignore discussing this because it's not related to what we are studying. So we have tables. Okay, so table is just like will I say container again? Everything is container in my programming. Okay, so table is it's kind of a layout where you are able to say you had ID. Okay, you had columns like this. Okay, you have student. Okay, and then you have class, you have subject, right? Something like that. You have test one, test two, test three, and then you are able to input the first student as one. Okay, and then you're able to do maybe John Doe as a student's name, and then class you can say JSS1. Okay, subject mathematics, and then test 1, 18, test 2, 17, test 3, 12. All right, something like that. So you keep adding, you add the second student, okay, Elizabeth, and blah blah blah. So that's a table design. That's how a table looks like in your database. So a database can have several tables, okay, and these tables are related to each other, okay, by way of the keys, okay, which we'll talk about, all right, shortly. So all right, so I know we are mixing things up here. We are not, this can be like a results table, okay, all right, and then if we are talking about relational database management system, then this would be a key, okay, a foreign key, being called from the student table. Okay, the student table will only confirm information, contain information about the student, like student first name, middle name, last name, date of birth, admission number, parents phone number, address, and what have you. Okay, so this table now will relate to that. Okay, that table, as I mean, we'll get the ID, student ID, maybe ID number 5. Okay, if you get to the student table, you see number 5 person is John Doe, something like that. So maybe this one is ID number 12. Okay, if you get to this, so that relationship is hence the name RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Okay, so we create several tables and then we relate them, and then we are able to interact with them efficiently. Okay, now with PHP we will focus on this. We will focus on MySQL. MySQL is a very popular database management. So I've worked with MySQL for over a decade. Okay, so it's very nice. The syntax is very simple. If you are using SQL to interact with MySQL, it's as easy as saying something like select all from maybe result where student, something like this, maybe student ID, something like this, student ID equal to, okay, maybe 12 or something. So you get to write these things, but we have an interface that will enable us to do that quickly. Okay, and then with a graphical user interface, a GUI that helps us to just click here, and everything is set up for us. So that's what we will see. Now your installation of PHP PHP came with that XAMPP. Okay, that XAMPP actually came with MySQL came with an interface where we are able to interact with databases. So it's called PHP my admin. Okay, spelled like that. So how do you access PHP my admin so that we see how it works? So coming over here, just type localhost without anything. So let me reduce it. So this interface, you click on PHP my admin. If you want to check your version, you can click here, how to guides and other things. Before now, we've always been having localhost slash maybe demo, and then we see what, but now we just want to have only localhost without anything. So you get to this part and then you click on this last one. Okay, PHP my admin opens up. So this is how it looks like. Okay, so yeah, so to create this interface, all right, to create a new database, you can either click here or you click here. You can either click new here or you click databases here. Okay, so either you click new, is the same place, it will take you here, or you click databases. So you type the name of the database you want to make things easy. I always like to go with simple names. Okay, so we can just call this teachers. Okay, that's my table, and then forget about this, let's just leave it like that. Then we have teachers. So teachers has been created, and if you look down you see teachers. Okay, try not to be deleting databases like tables you don't know, schemas. This can be very important. You don't delete this, you don't delete any of this except the ones you created. All right, so we have teachers. You click on teachers. So this is teachers, no value, no tables found in the database yet. Okay, so this is the name of the database. Always look up here. All right, and these are the menu you can click. So you can write a raw SQL like the one I just wrote, SQL select all from blah blah blah, or insert into, but we don't want to do that. So what we do is um, we have a structure. All you need to do is, how do we design our table? So to create a table, the database can be let's have, so that we don't get confused, we can have a database that is rename database to schools. Let me just call schools. Okay, yes, so this should be changed to schools. If it doesn't, then all right. Oh, I think I already had schools. Okay, this is changed to schools, although it didn't drop this for some errors. Okay, so now you have a schools database that will contain different tables like students, result, teachers. Okay, so let's create a teachers table. You can increase this, okay, depending on the number of columns you want also. So then go. So the first thing to note here is this name. I just reduce this. You can always click this place to bring it up again. Okay, click it. All right, so the first thing to note is the name you want to give to this column. This is actually the name here. Oh, I erased that. Okay, so this is actually this how do you call it, table headings. Okay, so you have ID, student, class. Okay, so just know that while you're, so you can have ID there, the first column should always be ID, and then we have a name, and no, students, class, subject. Okay, so we can have okay, we are working with teachers, so we can have first name and have last name. Okay, and have phone number for example. Okay, so now let me just put address instead. Address. All right, so the ID value should always be an integer. Okay, this is integer. All right, so we leave it like that. So we are going to the type, data type, right? So f name will be a string, but in database we call it varchar, which stands for variable characters. Okay, so we use that. Then this is also varchar, so you have to be careful what type you give to it, okay, so that it will work well for your databases. All right, so address might be a varchar if you don't want plenty of text, but if you want more than 255 characters, maybe you can use text, okay, so that it will contain more characters. Okay, all right, yeah, so the ID, what's the length? Yeah, you can give to ID, so we can give 12. 12 doesn't mean like the highest number should be 12. It actually means that um maybe the, how do you call it, the value, is it value, the figure, yeah, it means that the figure should not supersede 12. Like say we are counting in millions. Okay, so we are counting in millions like this. So this is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you were to increase it to billions, so you now have, or 100,000, if you were to increase it to 1 million now, 100 million now, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you can have up to 999, billion, I mean rows in that table. Okay, so that's what it talks about. So the length of the figure should not be more than 12. Okay, so by the time your table gets up to that point, I mean it's not going to be soon. Okay, so the first name value is not actually the figure, it's looking at the number of text. Okay, so first name value, people with long names can have 35 names, 35 characters. Okay, so let's just leave that at 35 characters. Okay, all right, so address can be a text, and then because it's a text, you don't need to define anything here. All right, so we move down here. If you have default values like 0 for a column or empty or something, you can choose here. All right, but we don't need that. So we move, let's leave collection for now. So we get to attributes. We can always use unsigned for ID, just that one, and then leave the rest. Okay, then we get to null. Which column do you want? Maybe the person can leave for null. Okay, address, if the person doesn't have address for now, you can leave for null, so you check the null. Okay, and then index, very important. Okay, index helps, it's not like indexing in arrays per se, but index in database helps to make your databases more efficient. Okay, more efficient, scalable. Okay, and then it will improve the performance. Okay, so you have to index columns that you need very well, columns that you interact with, columns that are you do a lot of select. Okay, like select where ID is, and especially so. But apart from that, every table must have a primary key, so that's a primary key index we want to talk about now. Okay, so a primary key is like a unique identifier for each table. Okay, and then it's from the primary key you're able to get the contents of that particular table. All right, so we get to index, and we choose primary key. There are different kinds of key. Unique can be used for email. If you are doing a registration platform where you want every user to have different kinds of emails, then if you have two users maybe using the same username or the same email, it throws an error. You can use a unique, but never for the ID key. Okay, you can use that for another column. So for this, you use primary key and then you click OK, and then auto increment A_I doesn't stand for artificial intelligence. It actually stands for auto increment. Auto increment. Auto increment. Okay, so it means increment by 1. As a new user is added, as a new data is added to that table, add 1. As a new data is added, add 1 automatically. Otherwise, it would be cumbersome and will be prone to errors if we have to manually, like a user wants to register in your system and you now say, okay, the last ID was 45, now choose 46. Users would choose something else. Users are never trusted, or maybe they don't. Okay, and then that causes a lack of database integrity. So you have AI and then you check that so that each data you enter will automatically count from 1 and go ahead. So once you check that, we don't have any other columns we have to on this side, so we just leave it that way. We can bring this back and then you scroll down a bit and then you click save. So your teachers table is successfully created with this. Okay, so you can go ahead, add, you can browse. There's nothing there first. Okay, you can insert manually. We'll do that from PHP later on. So you can insert maybe John Daniels. Okay, and then address some nice street, Gaborone, Botswana. Okay, all right, so we can have that. We can notice that I did not add anything here. You don't need to. It will automatically increment for us. Okay, so we need Abigail ransom. Okay, and then beautiful street, Kampala. Okay, so that looks good, and then you can add more rows here if you wanted. Okay, you can just increase this and it will add, but we don't want, so we just go. So 2 new rows have been added and you now see them here, John Daniels. Okay, just exactly how we talked about it here. So that's how you get to create different tables. You can create another table by not going here. You are not going here again. So any other time you open PHP MyAdmin by just saying localhost and clicking PHP MyAdmin, you get down to your schools and then teachers. Okay, or perhaps schools, and then clicking teachers here, and then you browse. If you need to check the structure and edit, you can check here. Okay, you can check the SQL. You see, select all from teachers where one, whatever. So that's the SQL written for us if you run it. All right, so that's that about that. So once you are done, you click close. So there is some other thing I need to hastily talk about in this video. The concept of let me clean this off. We have some functions we use in PHP a lot. So we have require. Okay, we have let me copy that. So we have require once. Okay, we have include, and then we have include once. Okay, so I'll start by talking about includes first before they require. All right, so when we talked about, I remember that video. I think was it the first video where we integrated HTML templates, okay, into PHP. Okay, so that's what you do. but I'm going to create something very simple just to demonstrate what I'm trying to talk about. So let me create a very simple index.html, index.php. Okay, and then I have my HTML. Okay, HTML. Okay, this was capitalized, doesn't need to. So I have my head here. I have head here. Okay. Okay, so of course body. Please, we don't need to focus on the edge, so I can just reduce that and keep it simple. All right, so coming to the body now, you have a scenario where you have, for instance, menu and footer, menu links and footer links. Let me just care about indentation, just like Python. Okay, in Python programming, indentation is core, is key, so I care about it a lot. So let me say, you see, you open your li, you close it, then you have your href. Okay, let me use equal there. Okay, and you have a. All right, so let's say we have home page, and then we have index.php. Okay, so let me just do this. Okay, so we have 3 pages. We have services, about, contact, and contacts. We are going to create all these pages now. Okay, so this is beautiful. So this, I can come here and say this is my home, h1, welcome home, okay, and then we can also have footer that we want. So let me just use div, okay, and call it div. Okay, and then we just have how do you call this, copy symbol. Okay, 2024, all rights reserved. Okay, all right, so this should appear on all the pages, but this should be different on each of the pages. So let's see how that looks first. Okay, so we have home, okay, and this is welcome home, and this is, so we want a situation where we are able to see this in all the pages. So if we have another page like this, copy and paste and paste. Okay, so we have rename, and then we call this about.php, and then we have this one, rename, we call this contacts. The pages are now available, .php. Then in about, we can simply change this to about us. Okay, and then in contacts, I can, okay, let me not close that yet. So in contacts, let me just move it here. So in contact, we have so we have contact us here. Okay, so let's see how that works. So we go here, about, beautiful. So but if you notice, we have to implement this on all the pages, and we have to implement the footer as well on all the pages, which is not a nice practice. What if by tomorrow you need to remove about and add services and products? So you had 100 pages or 1,000 pages in a large website, so it means you'll have to go through all the pages to edit that. Okay, so it's not nice. So the important way of doing it is to use include. So we get this into another file. Let's just have a folder called includes. Okay, and then we have a new file called header.php. Okay, and then we paste that header. Okay, so we close it or leave it first, and then we have another one called footer. So let me just create that. So we have footer.php, and then we get the footer here, we cut it out, and then we place it there. Okay, now footer.php, right? So we have header and we have footer. Now if we check index again, it's gone, they are gone. Okay, but then if we check other pages, they are still there. So we remove them from all other pages, and then instead add, let me remove this as well and remove this. Okay, so if you check all the pages, they are gone now. All right, so we need to add include. So if we add include here with PHP, we can have include as a function name, then we open bracket and then we terminate, then we have this quotes, and then you have includes the folder that it's inside, includes, then slash header. Okay, and header will appear there. So if we have here, so we have footer there, so we change this to footer. Okay, so that's for contact us. We can do the same for all of them. So welcome has this header and has footer. Okay, about has header and has footer. Okay, so if we go back to our pages, you see includes header. Okay, you're right. So that's even the issue that I wanted to discuss with you guys. Now we will correct this, but just before we correct this, I want you to check something out. We have an error with our includes. Okay, can't find this file because there's no file called header. We have header.php and footer.php, but we didn't include that. So now notice that we have the error, no doubt. All right, but then our page still shows up with the warning. We still have our full-fledged page. Even if we had colors, we'll still have this page without any issues. Okay, but the thing with, let me just play with require now. If we use require here, require, that's what I wanted to discuss, the purpose of this topic now, and thankfully we have run into errors. So before we fix that error, I'm going to discuss it. So now notice what will happen here. We are in index.php. So if we get here, see what happens with require. Require, let me do that again. So Control Z, include, right? So we are on home page. Include will show a warning message, okay, but then you still have your page working, but you have warning messages. But require is like, it's compulsory. If I don't find this file, I will not proceed. I require this file before I run the remaining of your page. Okay, so it depends on what you want. Both of them are good, depends on the quality, what you are trying to achieve. If you need a situation where if you have errors, the page shouldn't run at all, that's perfect, you use require. But if you need a situation where everything renders except where you have errors and warnings, you can use require. Okay, you can use includes. All right, so another one is we have a stricter one, require ones. Okay, all these require ones, you may not understand the difference yet. Okay, require ones is useful if you had, let's correct this first. Okay, so let's correct this to PHP and it should work. PHP, so we have corrected that, it works now. So But then if we use require once, let's use require twice. Let's try to implement require twice. Okay, by mistake, the code is cumbersome and by mistake I require twice. But what if I used require once here? So require once ensures that you don't have duplicates like we had before. It checks that you only require one. So most of the times developers tend to use require once because it eliminates errors and then also make sure that you don't have duplicates. But it is very tasking in terms of efficiency. It's very tasking to the memory of your computer, memory of the server and everything. So include is fine. Okay, include any of these require ones and include ones is really cumbersome. So I'd advise you go for, so include ones also checks something like this and ensures that it's included once. So that's what wanted to talk about. Require ones, include and include ones. Okay, so you can update your pages for here and they will show as we expected. Okay, so if we update our pages and then they show as we expected. Okay, all right. So if we get to about, we see contact, and then it's just from one place. Now if we decide to now remove, we now update this to products, or maybe explore. I like to see something like take a tour. Okay, take a tour. If we wanted to change that, take a tour, you will see change on all the pages. Or maybe you say hello instead of contact. Okay, you see it on all the pages. So you see take a tour, you go, that's about us, that's contact. So it works without you having to go through 1000 pages to make changes. The same thing with footer. Okay, if you wanted to change this should be programmatically brought in. If you wanted to just add the champion, okay, or maybe Z6 IT training, okay, you can just add that. Okay, and then it works for all the pages. So you have contact us, about this IT training, and home. So that's the essence of using include ones, require ones. All right, thank you very much, and I hope to see you in our next video. Thank you. Bye.